especially because my family was from South Italy, so they have a different dialect for like Naples, Sicily. So it's not that standard Italian. So it took me really long for it, and always had to adapt new things like new style, new way of speaking. And yeah, that was the thing that kind of gave me kind of motivation to learn more about cultures and languages. Yes, and from that on, I just kept going, and yeah, so like
Nice.
it's worked all good for that.
Or eventually did it come naturally to be able to switch between the three?
So like, so to be exact, I came to Germany in 2004, and in the beginning, it was really hard because, so you can imagine, in my home, so in my place, I was speaking Spanish, with my mother, and also Italian with my stepfather. So in school, I was learning German. So like basically I was mixing up things when just going to another place. So when I'm meeting to my family of my stepfather, so we're all speaking Italian. So I was a lot of listening to get what I was speaking. And since, like I said, they were from the south, so they had a lot of dialects. So not only had to understand standard Italian, but also dialects from villages to really grasp what do they really mean, like when I started I grew up in South Germany, like Stuttgart, near Stuttgart. Basically, like they also have a different dialect in German, so it was always nice to listen to it. And since there were also a lot of Italians in Stuttgart, that also helped me out more, like to get more also the standard Italian, because meeting people from different part of Italy living in Germany, that helps me a lot for that. Yeah, but then it all came naturally. So I would say after that, I was able to juggle the different languages and to switch between them. But it was for sure at work, hard work for the beginning on, because like I said, it was not only the language but also the culture. So I came in November, so it was very cold. In Cuba, we don't have snow, we don't have this kind of things, like we only have
You don't have
beaches
that in
and
Italy where I come
yeah.
as well. So it's like, imagine going all the way from Cuba.
Yeah.
So exactly, so like those were the other effects. So I had to adapt to it, and yeah, I mean, I remember like when I landed in Düsseldorf airport, and I only had my, how you call it in Spanish, like chancletas, like yeah, that's it. Because I thought, okay, I'm going to another country. I think that will work out, like same climate like in Cuba, but yeah. So that was my first. Okay, I really need to buy other clothes, like because like food.
Maybe we will talk about it later, maybe about what the actual accents of Germany sound like, but it's something very interesting that not a lot of people tend to think.
Yeah, and before we dive more into the whole dialect topic, also for the Spanish version, maybe one more point about the whole thing of growing up trilingually. Like, how did those three languages shape how you saw the world as a child? Like, at which point did you realize, well, those are really different cultures, and how did it influence you?
So like in a way they influenced me, that understanding more about like Roman language and culture. So understanding that Italian, it has a lot of similarity with Cuban culture, not so many, but it has a little things. So we would say as a Cuban, it will be easier to assimilate to Italian culture than to German. And so that helps more to understand, so to get along with Italian, but also then with other people from, like, say, Spain, Portugal, and also even Greece, So that helped me to understand what are the varieties of cultures that are in a common sense. Like, so if I speak German, I know it will be easier for me to understand people from Nordic countries if I only speak Spanish. So, since I already know the German culture, so it's easier to get to navigate those other cultures as well. So Spanish helped me understand Latin America more, but also people from Spain, Italy, and but also so like more like this kind of in the cultural understanding, to understand more about what is behind that and why people do that, what is the history between of the country, and why people see things the way they do. And yeah, so all those aspects that enriches life, and also the beauty of every country and culture, language as well.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because you have a lot of coverage when it comes to Europe and a lot of the America side of things. But I think it would be interesting for you. I don't know if you're already picking up on any sort of Asian language that exists, because that would allow you to basically cover the entire world kind of all the cultures. So I don't know if you ever got the idea of learning something like a Chinese or a Japanese or yeah. I think that's like the trifecta when it comes to understanding different languages. You have the Nordic side, you have the Latin side, and you probably also need the Asian side. But it's very nice to be able to kind of figure out things immediately, because a lot of people don't get that sort of luxury, and they have to work a lot harder before they can even understand a little bit of a tiny percentage of how other cultures communicate and think. So it's very, very nice to see.
And yes, and I did learn Asian language, especially Mandarin Chinese.
That is a tough one. That is a very tough one. I did 1 year, and it's supposed to be very.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
And I'm still learning, you know. And I'm still learning, so it's a...
Good luck with that. I can just say that. Good luck with learning Mandarin. Have you ever found your Cuban Spanish clashing with how Spanish is specifically taught in or used in other places in Europe? Not just like the way that the languages are different, but the way that they're even presented or taught in school or by parents or whichever the case.
I mean, in school, like I tend to go to some Spanish classes just because I wanted to speak Spanish, not because I had to. And of course, they were mainly teaching Spanish from Spain, sometimes also from Latin America, but mostly was from Spain. So of course, like in way of didactic, or it's in English, it was more like, yeah, let's get the rules, you know, the grammar rules in Spanish. And even there you see the differences, because in Cuba you would not learn like that. And of course, there are different grammar rules in Spanish, also from Spain, than Latin American Spanish.
They just that's what happened. But in your case, do you consciously try to preserve your Cuban accent even after living in Germany for so long, or it is some sort of something that cannot be changed, or like other elements that make it difficult to adapt?
No, I would say I'm preserving my Cuban accent because it's part of my identity and I like it. And when it comes to accent, this is my personal view. I like to learn a language, and I like to be sound native-like. So if I'm learning French, I want to sound like a French speaker. So I would make sure that I practice enough pronunciation so I can be perceived as a native or native-like, you know. So, but it's like a personal thing that you don't need to, but for me it's a nice thing to have, because like when you are perceived as native-like, there are less barriers, you know. You get more deeper into cultures, like, because people assimilate with you. Okay, or you speak like me. Okay, now I can open up more in a different way. I mean, so that's how I see it.
I think those are very, very nice words of encouragement for people making that decision. But I think this sort of situation only comes when someone is learning a lot of different languages back to back. So I think it would be very interesting to learn about more of the very unique ways that can allow you to make that journey a lot smoother. A little birdie told me, if I am correct or not, that you found a very interesting way to connect all of the languages that you learn as some sort of like a chain, right? Like you use a certain language to learn a different language. Is that correct?
Yes. So I'm doing at the moment for Russian. So I'm learning Russian from the French perspective. So I can understand, like I'm only using French tools, like a French native speaker, to learn Russian.